So a few years back, I needed to change codes and duplicate key fobs that I distributed to some people to get into some buildings and some gates. They're RFID. So I did a lot of research on YouTube and came across this particular model because I personally, most of them are HID coded, but not all. And I got there were a lot of bad reviews, a lot of some this worked, some this doesn't. It's obviously, yes, a Chinese model. It has, I have no idea what any of it says, but that is the numbers that were on the side of it when I got it. It does absolutely work. But one thing that they told me when I got it originally too was what appears on the screen, whether it's blue or red originally, makes a huge difference. Apparently the blue background was not advised by a couple people, stating that it didn't work for their purposes. I do to get into apartment buildings. And I don't feel like purchasing brand new everything all the time, just because I need to change a code or I need to do something like that. So I did not want to do that. This one works perfectly for me. Most of mine are the HID, but I do have a couple that are IC codes, and it does read and it does write perfectly fine. But what most people were unhappy with was a very loud noise that it does make, and especially if you're doing a few hundred of them at a time, it can get pretty darn annoying. It's loud, it's a loud beep, and basically everybody was like, you can't get rid of it. After about a year, I got really tired of that, so I decided to figure that out myself, and you can get rid of it. You need a Phillips head screwdriver, and to literally unscrew the back, and I'll show you what to do to get rid of the sound if it's really driving you nuts. Because yes, if you're doing like 200, it is a loud beep, and in my garage it just echoes, and I was not happy. Even if I was in the house doing it, it was not pleasant. It's loud. It's very loud. I think it is loud because it's supposed to make it so people know that you're copying it or something. I don't know, but in my garage, it's just aggravating to me because I'm the only one listening to it. And I'm sure that other people have the same problems and the same annoyances. And there is a way to stop it by easily just unscrewing these little guys in the back. It takes, this particular one works off of four AAA batteries. I always have to pull one out or they die very quickly, even if the power is off. So I often keep it in the box itself, and I just pull one of the batteries out and leave it in the box. And then when I go to use it, I put it back in. Either that every single time. If I don't use it for a couple weeks or a month, it's dead, which is annoying. So I always make sure I just disconnect at least one of them. All right. But yes, I definitely was aggravated just as much as anybody else by the sound. I must not have gotten it out all the way. Sorry about that. Yeah, just a small, it's got to be a small Phillips head screwdriver though, obviously, because they're down pretty deep in there. And they're pretty long screws. If you could see, they were just very long. Make it not that easy to access, but is doable. And that still does, that little piece on the end just does not want to come loose. Takes a bit. And that one happens to be around this little loop holder, wrist holder thing, of which I never use for anything, but I will tell you that you open it up. Here we go. And inside, okay, let's see here. Okay, so inside the back, here, there is a red wire right where the speaker is, because the speaker is kind of toward the back. But if you open it up, if you cut this red wire, so it's on the back to the right hand side, if you cut this red wire, no more sound, no more sound. And then you can just tuck it back in and put it all back together. Make sure you don't lose any of your pieces. Everything's nice and tight and exactly where it went, with the exception of that red wire being cut. And no more beeping sound when you scan stuff. It's actually really nice. I love it. It's more pleasant to my ears. Let me put it back together. All right, now when you are putting it back together, there is one thing you don't want to do, and it is on that, kind of on the same side, there's a metal wire. Do you see that metal wire? You don't want to break that metal wire connection. You just want to cut this red one, and then as you're putting it back together, you're going to have at the bottom these little, these are the connectors, that one and this one, that squeeze in here for your batteries. You have to make sure that they thread through and that all the metal is there and in place, and then re-put in your screws. Screws back in, you put the back door on, and you can power it on. You hit confirm. All right, and let's try it out. Let's try to scan one of my key fobs here that I made. This is definitely needs to be my HID, and you hit the read. Oh, wrong. Could I get trying to do it that way? All right, read. You just have to basically put that over it. Read that one. This one is a completely different type. It is, you can write. Yeah, hold on. I believe it is an ICA. It might not. Yep, an ID tag there. Most of the ones I do for apartment buildings and that kind of thing are my HID ones. You can read it. Let's read one. Actually, let's show you how I would do a new one. All right, so I get these off of Amazon, believe it or not, pretty darn cheap too. Different colors, which allows me to use different colors for different buildings or different family members, so I know who's lost theirs and who hasn't, stuff like that. It's just always good to know, depending on what I'm keeping track of. If I try to read this now, it's going to tell me read, fail every time, because those are blank, those are new from Amazon. This particular one I used this morning, so I know that I can read it. It's an HID, I read it, it gives me the number, and then I go over the other one, the new one, so basically sit it on top of it, and I hit the write. It says write card successfully. All right, so move that away. We'll take just this black one. And let's see, we'll turn it back on from scratch, and I'll try to read it and see if it works. And I've tested this many, many times over the last 2 years, and yes, they absolutely do open the building door for myself and my customers and stuff like that. So we're going to read it, so I put it right over it. I hit the read button, and it's perfect every time, and no loud beeping sound. I hope this is helpful. And again, I believe I actually got this used off of eBay because it was really cheap and I was not 100% sure that it would even work. But this is the box that it came in. It did come with a cord. It can do other things, but this is the only thing that I particularly needed it for, was just because I didn't feel like giving out 100 new key fobs every time I wanted to change a code and do stuff like that. This makes it very easy. It's easy to take with me if I need to do it on the spot. Sometimes I have it in a glove compartment, so if I get caught off guard, I don't have to come all the way to the house. And now it's not loud as heck. I hope this was very helpful. I believe they may sell these also on Amazon, but I always get the fobs usually off of Amazon because they seem to be the cheapest and the quickest to deliver. It's a Zosin, Zosin, and a red screen background. I don't really honestly know if the blue background ones work. I have never had one. I just had seen a bunch of videos where people were complaining and saying that they couldn't get it to work, they couldn't get it to read, they couldn't get it to write. And someone kept asking, you know, what color is the background? And if it's red, it'll work. If it's blue, there are certain things that work, but certain things that don't work. So that's why I chose this particular one. It has a blue background, like on the screen on the box, but that's part of the reason I liked the pictures. On eBay, they had actually turned it on and there was a picture on the screen, so I knew exactly what I was getting because it was the device itself, because obviously I could not read any of the writing on the box or anything like that. But it does a bunch. I think it does a bunch of different things, but it's worked great.